Hey guys, welcome to your Fridays in your Max Allure week. I'm very excited to be here today. We're waiting. We're gonna soon have Dr. Dana Corriel from Physician Social Media, Dr. SoMe Docs, and we're very excited about our conversation. She was earlier today this week in our podcast called Design Your Physician Life. And I want to invite you because there she talks a lot about her story. We talk about a lot of what physicians can certainly do to build their social media representation. And here I am. It's a little bit windy today. As you know, we're having this storm. We're here in Florida. And we're gonna be, not as unfortunate as other places. I hope that they're doing well. This is a very special weekend. This is a weekend where many spend with our families and friends. And we also want to honor the physicians and all those healthcare workers and emergency workers who spend this week taking care of us, making sure that we're fine, that we're safe, that if any of us has an emergency, will be taken care of. So thank you to all those physicians who really take care of them, of our patients. So I'm gonna send an email to you, Dr. Corriel, to our transmission here. And I want to talk to you specifically, physicians who, there she is. Hello, how
Hi,
are you?
I'm sorry, but the link wasn't working for whatever reason. I don't think it's your
You know what? It happens. It
right,
happens. So,
right.
it just happens. It's live transmission.
Exactly. We're imperfect.
Yes. So thank you for being here. I was mentioning that I really wanted to thank all physicians or all healthcare providers and any other people who help us, during these holidays, these festivities, and they're taking care of us. And they're not with their family or friends, but they're with their work friends, and they make sure that we're taken care of. So thank you for doing that, guys. And one of the reasons that we've uh, open these efforts, from the Max Salary Mastermind and the Design Your Physician Life is precisely for physicians who really want to continue working in medicine, or physicians who feel overwhelmed or tired of the system, and they really want to be able to practice for joy. And we want good physicians taking care of us. And one of those efforts that we have, we give information, we grow through other avenues, and one of them is social media, and that's why we have Dr. Dana Corriel here today. And let's talk a little bit about, first, what are you going to do this weekend? We haven't talked about that
Right, right. Well, this
this
weekend,
week.
joining your state and switching weather, going from really cold weather, hopefully, to the sunny, spacious space of Florida. So that's what I'm going to do. And my husband is one of those workers that's going to be working over the weekend. And so again, it's not just that I'm thanking him, but I'm joining you, and thank you everybody that commits to better health and sacrifices their own family time and their own holidays to heal others.
Yeah, thank you very much. Um, Thank you to your husband, right? He's not going to be traveling with the family right away, but he'll join you guys later.
Right.
One of the things that we want to mention before we forget, which is very important, well, hashtag live, hashtag replay, if you want anybody else to listen to these messages today, we're gonna have the first event outside of New York this coming Thursday here in Sarasota. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Very briefly, we're playing around with that. We're not really sure if everybody wants to, because it sounds like people may be traveling. So I'm actually throwing it out there in case anybody in Sarasota wants to get together for a doctors only networking event. And if you do, then you can surely sign up at doctorsonsocialmedia.com/networking. And you can find it there as an option in the in-person networking event. We have one that's already going on in New York City that is coming up to its third iteration. And so we're trying it out in Sarasota, but we realize it's in the middle of the holidays, so that might not be the best time. And so we're going to see how many people are interested.
So when people come to you to these events, they're physicians, they want to network, but they also want to learn about social media. Which are the questions that they most commonly come to you with when they meet you for the first time?
I mean, I think there's all sorts of levels of social media use. So you have doctors who ask, how is social media going to help me? And that's an individualized discussion, because every doctor wants to do different things, right? There's some doctors, for example, that want more visibility for their practices. There's other doctors that are looking to speak at events and get paid. There's other doctors that are interested in reaching a larger audience online digitally, and maybe building a website, or maybe building a podcast or a blog. The point is that each of us has different purposes for being online. So the number one question is, what do you want to do? What's your endpoint goal? Or what could you make better about your life? Many of us are happy as we are, but there's always room for improvements. None of us are perfect. And so that's where I come in, and I help with consulting to figure out exactly where it is that you could use social media and for what purpose. So that's the number one question, is how can social media help me? But for those, even for those that are in, one of the biggest questions probably is, how can I have farther reach, right? How can I actually land those speaking gigs, or land in lists, or land in other people's feeds? And that's also part of my entrepreneurial venture, is trying to facilitate those connections more rapidly, so that more educated health professionals can land gigs that help them move their career forward, to promote the autonomy of doctors.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm trying to consider, but I'm getting a little bit cold here outside. I'm gonna keep this going, but it's like I should have wore something else. But anyways,
It's not here in New York, that's for sure.
yeah, bring a little jacket just in case for this weekend to
Oh
Florida.
yeah, already.
Yeah. So these physicians, as you say, we have different avenues. A lot of us want to really educate our patients with so much misinformation, poor information out there, incomplete information. It's very important that physicians who have had great training are available there to teach others. We also want to use it, as you say, as an entrepreneurial, in an entrepreneurial way, where we can also get some other avenues of income, so that we can diversify and then do other things that we're passionate about. Some people are really passionate about speaking. I haven't really met a doctor who really doesn't like to teach. Like, we're teaching all day long. We're educating our patients, and that's something that can be done, really well. Also, if you're developing a product or a service, this is a great way of, is the way, right, actually, to be able to spread most of the information. So when you see a physician and they say, you know what, Dana, can you please help me? I have this thing. And they go and they get your help, and they get to this wonderful world of doctors on social media. You guys create a profile for this physician in your portal, and then they have these opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we basically, our website is open to everybody, for the whole world. It's a public website. It's called doctorsonsocialmedia.com. And we are building a super unique data bank of real doctors that we vet, so that if anybody needs a doctor, whether it's a patient, or it's a business, or it's a podcast, or it's a journalist, or it's another doctor, or it's an event, etc. If anybody needs a doctor, they can go to our data bank, and they can find them uniquely using filters that are niched out, that niche out your doctors based on your needs. So we build profiles for doctors right now. We finally are able to offer it for free for doctors. They're not like other profiles. They're magazine style spreads, very much like a catalog. And doctors are vetted, and then they have a profile built for them. And that's just the baseline. And the world can use it. But we have so many other things on the website. We have a magazine that's filled with articles written by these doctors. We have a lectures section that has both lectures that are coming up live, and we have a section that has lectures that are on demand. We have a section that's a series section where we curate videos like Netflix, but for healthcare. And we have a beyond exam room section where we've got doctors we've got a list of podcasts that doctors build, a list of books and blogs, a list of speakers, coaches, communities, and all kinds of different things. And it just ties everything together, and it facilitates connections in health and healthcare. So I built it. from the ground up. I am a physician. I used to see patients clinically, but now I work full time, fueling the site, working the site, putting together brick by brick and changing it as I see the needs arise from both the doctor perspective and the world's perspective, the patients and the public that are looking for doctors. So that's the crux of it.
So if I am a physician and I want to get, and I already have a profile. I have my profile there on Doctors on Social Media. I'm very happy. But let's say I want to optimize my profile. I want to optimize the use of the site. Which steps should I take? You know, you already built my profile. I already sent you my picture, my information, my basic stuff. Here you go. I have a profile. What next thing you recommend that we do?
That's a great question. So I am currently working on onboarding videos in your member hub. So the next step is that you click into your member hub and you regularly check the updates that are there, because I'm building videos on what could be your next steps. For example, if your next step is that you've just written a book, then you would upgrade to a network membership. And first of all, there's one paid membership at this point, and it opens up everything. So you can build a speaker portfolio if you are, a book portfolio if you've written a book. If you have a podcast, then you'd build a podcast portfolio. But basically, you'd have us build a portfolio for you in whatever section you're in. That's number one. Number two is you come to our incubator once a month. That's where we, as a group, build up. We give each other feedback. We ask questions. We just had one and it was really fantastic. So you do that. There's different deals and perks for our network members. The other thing I tell everybody, doesn't matter what level membership you have, but as long as you're a vetted doctor, you come to the virtual networking hour once a month. We have virtual networking that's focused on you. So it really works to facilitate networking between members, between vetted doctors. And it's a great way to meet others and to collaborate and grow. So again, the next step for any doctor is to check in the member hub, which is accessible only to members, and see exactly what works for you versus what works for, someone else in their own trajectory. For example, also the latest offering, we actually partnered up with YouTube, which was an exciting announcement. We partnered up with YouTube to present a YouTube incubator for the next 6 months, and we only opened it up for a certain amount of people. And we prioritized it based on our network members and then our free members, et cetera, et cetera. And we're full, but if you are a member and you checked in regularly and you open our emails, then you can actually see it and you can join the incubator on time, and it just works really well. So.
That's awesome. Before we go on, I want to remind whoever's online, like Josephine and Isaac and you guys, thank you for being here. If you want, Hassani, if you want to ask any questions, go ahead and, we have her here so she can answer questions for us while we're here live. So tell us about this effort with YouTube. That's wonderful. Just from an entrepreneurial point of view, how was the approach, and what's the relationship like?
Yeah. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think my company has done an amazing job in visibility and in brand awareness and building and recognition. So there was a link that was made for us in a conference in Vegas. There was a very large conference called Health, and someone in the audience met the person in charge of partnerships at YouTube and basically let them know, hey, you really have to check out So Docs because venture and introduced us, and we got together and they really liked what we're doing. And listen, in our venture lie a community of doctors that want to build their YouTubes and this and that. So after a few talks, we came to that agreement that we're going to work together. This is just step one, and we're going to experiment and we're going to see what the next steps are and see if we can grow from there. So it's just one, there's YouTube's incredible, but we've had many discussions with other partners and such that we're really proud of. I mean, we partnered recently with the American Medical Women's Association. We partnered recently with the entrepreneurial venture Uber Docs. We are partnering with a telehealth company. We're just partnering with a lot of companies. And at the crux of it is that the companies that want to value the doctor, the individual doctor, and want to doctors will help them to showcase their individual docs. So that's how we move forward with partnerships at So Docs.
That's awesome. Congratulations, because that really helps physicians and helps our patients, helps our communities to really get all this information out and get these relationships going, especially at a time where there has been such a huge transformation in our field of medicine.
Yeah.
Is there a particular tip that you would like to give today? It's Friday, things, the storm's coming, and we might have some time in our hands. If for those who really have not seen, your website, what are the steps?
Sure, sure. So for those who haven't visited, again, it's at doctorsonsocialmedia.com. When you get there, I would focus on the tabs on the top because they really separate our audience. There's a tab for basically the general audience, and there's a tab for doctors. So depending on who you are, choose the tab that reflects who you are, and then take a look at the different offerings. If you feel like reading an article, then go to the magazine section. If you feel like signing up for a lecture that's live for free, our lectures are are free when they're live, but they cost money, a lot of them, when they're on demand. So watching live lectures and signing up for them in advance is a really cool feature. I highly recommend it. That could be an option too. And if you have some time to kill on your hands and you want to watch some videos from experts, you could take a look at our series. That's another option. But again, find what's right for you. Maybe take a look at our data bank to see how it works, to see if there's, a doctor that you want to follow. But the point is that it's definitely built for different audiences. So just play around with it and find the content that best suits your needs.
That's awesome. If I'm a doctor and I just started this road, and let's just say that I have a business, right? I have an online business coaching. Okay. I have a coaching business, and I come to you, I put my information there and everything, but I really want to get known in the web with my service, as just in social media. Which tips do you have besides your website? Which things are critical when you're building your social media presence that you would recommend to our physicians?
For me, it's about, number one, identifying why you're doing what you're doing. Number two is identifying your target endpoint user, so like your client. It's important by that, because if your target user is going to be a doctor that's going to hire you, then you're going to be curating content that's different than how you'd be curating content if it were patients that would be your endpoint clients. So it's the actual copy of the things that you share. Copy is the trade name for just the things that you write that you then post. So your copy would be different based on your target client, as would where you are hanging out, right? I mean, you would be hanging out in a physician-only community, right? We have a SoMeDocs physician-only community with 5,200 doctors. You would go there if your endpoint user to what you're sharing is a doctor, but you wouldn't post there you probably wouldn't post there if you wanted to post an article that was targeting the patient population. But again, there's a lot of strategy behind it, because even if your target audience are patients, a lot of times teaming up and collaborating with other doctors that have those patients, right, that see those patients in the office, could be smart entrepreneurially. So again, there's no one size fits all. It's just about figuring these things out, or coming into like an incubator like SoMeDocs to figure out these things, or hiring someone one-on-one to help them. But really figuring it out entrepreneurially so that you grow your business in the right way, and using, the right tools that are available on social media, obviously for the least amount of money. And most social media platforms nowadays are free, which is really nice.
That's awesome. If I was going to start as a coach who wants to bring, because we have many physicians who are transitioning to being coaches for physicians, or for their patients, or like very niche areas, like we have many, like ADHD for physicians, things like that. Where would you tell them which specific platforms for you said about it being with the right people, being with the physicians in those platforms and stuff, but is there like any particular groups or something that you recommend besides SoMeDocs?
It's interesting you said that, because we covered some of this in the incubator this month, that a lot of doctors are giving the advice that they should choose one social media platform and kind of just grow there. And I'm not of that mindset. I'm of the mindset of social media is a bulletin board, and you should have, it's free. So you should have your bulletin board up in every single highway, in every single social media highway. So really what you should focus on is your website. You should focus on your website. And then from the website, you should pull in material to these social media spaces, and you should utilize them to advertise billboard style in all the social media platforms. It's different to talk about interactive spaces like groups. I think that's a different discussion, because in a group, you can't always openly advertise or market what you do unless there's clear criteria and structure. So again, it just depends on what the doctor is looking for. I can't comment on the specific communities because it's really hard for me. It's almost unregulated. It's like the Wild West. All of these communities are being birthed and are being created, but I find that some of them are very warm and inviting to everyone, but some of them aren't. And if there's no clear rules and structure, then it gets very confusing for people that are more entrepreneurially minded, because they want to share their services and they want to promote themselves and their what they're offering. But you don't want a community to become a marketing space. You don't want an interactive community to become a billboard. And so that's the struggle that admins go through when they actually host a Facebook group. And it's part of why it's hard for me to say which ones I recommend and which ones I don't. I think clear structure and rules are really at the crux of.
Let's think about some of these doctors that you have access. I have thousands of doctors in your site,
Right.
And some of them have really done a really great job at utilizing their resources, and they have wonderful social media that we can refer to. Can you give us some example maybe of somebody who's doing great job, like to take that message to the public, or for a product that they have, or a different service professionally related that they have?
Yeah, definitely. I think I can tell you about both ends, right? I mean, I don't know, a name that comes off right away, I guess Dr. Louis Profeta is an ER doctor in Indiana. He's great. He has written a book.
Shout out to Dr. Profeta.
He's a writer, he's a speaker, he's growing his speaking business, and he does it really well. He works really hard. He also engages. He has presence on SoMeDocs as well. He's a top LinkedIn voice also. So shout out to him. I don't know, another example of a backwards example is Samuel Shem, who's a great friend of mine who wrote The House of God. And he's great because he already was a really big figure. He's basically one of the most well-known novelists in healthcare. And he continues to write. He's writing, he's written 3 books. He's writing his 4th. I believe he actually just came out with his 4th. But the point is that he uses SoMeDocs to help amplify his voice. So we built 2 seasons of a series for him called Conversations with Shem that you can find in the series section. And that's also an example of someone that has a product, right? He's got his books. He already has a name, right? He's already a famous guy. But just because he's a famous guy doesn't mean that he cannot be a part of SoMeDocs and just take advantage of our very large audience and the great, content that we build, the great aesthetics of our content, the uniqueness of our content. And so he's another example that just comes off the top of my head. But otherwise, there are so many doctors that are growing presence and making connections. We just featured Sandra White's The Practice Building Doc. We feature regular articles by Daniel Paul, who writes for us in the private practice section. Tin Yen is a podiatrist that joined recently. Wendy Schofer. I mean, so many different, Melinda Ring, lifestyle medicine. Colin Zhu just gave a talk. I can go on and on. There are so many incredible doctors. It's just that there's so many ways to use SoMeDocs to get the word on and what you do, that to just name a few would be doing a disservice to the entire data bank that we feature. So
Well,
check it
I
out.
think we have some names already there that we can check out. So you guys, go to the website. We're now to the end of our transmission here. Any final words before we go? Before we go, I want to remind you, whoever has come to the transmission, we might have an event in Sarasota, Florida this next week on the 29th of January. If we have interested people, because we know that, between the storm, the travel and everything, things have complicated a little bit. But if you're around, please let us know. You can go to the website, it's doctorsonsocialmedia.com, and then look for that link. If you can put it there, I don't know if you can say doctorsonsocialmedia.com. What's the next thing? Is the event? / what?
/ networking.
Here, / networking. There you go, guys. So if you're interested, and then any final thoughts before we go?
Yes, I'm typing. Yeah, I mean, let me just networking. Okay. Yes, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, regardless of what holiday that you celebrate. Thank you to you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And for our podcast that I shared recently that we had to create. And don't let yourself be in a box. Don't stifle yourself. If there is something that could either make you happy or increase, push your career forward, or just, again, put you in a better place, don't be shy. Reach out to me, to you, to whoever it is out there that has done it or is doing it and is happy doing it, and learn from us and learn different skills that can help you to do that too. And that's it. Let creativity be your fuel, because the world is our oyster, and there's only one life to live. So enjoy it.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. And for those of you who join us at the end, we also have the Maxallure Mastermind coming up in January, at the end of January. So you can visit our website. It's maxallure.com, MAXALLURE. Maybe Kate can write it down. And we also have the podcast where you can see Dr. Corriel's story. She was there earlier this week on Tuesday. That's called Design Your Physician Life. And you can get it in all the platforms, and you can learn a lot of things that we have there, really, to help you become the physician that you want to be, so that you can practice for joy. Learn about entrepreneurship, which is the tool that I've used to get me out of burnout where I've been before. And then you can learn a lot of these things, practice them. And we also wish you happy holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. And we'll see you next week for our last live of the year. Thank you for being here. Have a safe travel.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.